Now, some are making the case that this kind of outburst from Trump is evidence that he's going a bit senile. I saw a number of people online suggesting that. I disagree. I don't think that was senility. I think that was desperation. And just trolling. He's just trolling. He likes to troll. But I am starting to wonder about Trump on a completely separate note, especially with the 51st state stuff with Canada. He seems to be really serious about that, and that is just nuts. But I am starting to think there is better evidence out there of his mental state, and I have brought it for you today. Number one, Exhibit A. This is Trump's answer to a question about whether Trump was planning to lower corporate taxes to match Ireland's corporate tax rate. Okay, that's the question. Just marvel at the journey we go on and where we end up. The starting point is Trump going to lower corporate taxes to match Ireland's corporate tax rate? Just observe the ending point.
To match Ireland, are you planning to lower corporate taxes to match Ireland?
Well, we are planning to lower taxes, yeah, if the Democrats behave, but the Democrats have no clue. You saw that the other night during the speech. 2 young women were slaughtered by illegal aliens. 1 young man has very serious cancer and many other problems. We look at the people up there, they all had difficulty, very serious difficulty. But when we're talking about 2 young girls, beautiful young girls, Lake and Riley, you know the whole story. That evening was a disaster for the Democrats, in my opinion. And I would mention, and I'd see 2 mothers that were inconsolable as they stood, crying. Their daughters have been absolutely just destroyed, killed, viciously killed. And the young man who loves the police departments, he had cancer and has cancer, very bad cancer. There wasn't from people sitting there, Democrats, there wasn't a hand clap. Nobody stood. They were just stone-faced. These people are sick. There's something wrong with them. There was no standing for anybody. The only thing they liked is when they heard about the death taking place with Ukraine. They were happy about that. They were happy about that. Pocahontas was very happy. She's the one that was slapped. That's why I looked at her. I said, oh, it's Pocahontas. These people are sick. They don't know what's happening in the real world. The Democrats have to get their act together. And if they don't vote, then what you're going to do is you're going to have taxes that are going to go through the roof. You're going to have a very bad time. You're going to have some very bad things happen. And people are going to blame the Democrats. And Schumer is a Palestinian as far as I'm concerned. He's become a Palestinian. He used to be Jewish. He's not Jewish anymore. He's a Palestinian. Okay.
Huh? Chuck Schumer's Palestinian? What's that got to do with Ireland's corporate tax rate? What the hell? People are giving him crap. They're going, oh, that's a bit racist, isn't it? That's a bit racist. You call it Palestine. What's that? What's going on there? I just want to ask, what the hell is going on in your brain? Where did that come from? Chuck Schumer is Palestinian. Anyway, there's a worse example. There's a worse example I have for you. Now, I'm going to tell a story first, and I'll give you a warning. I'm going to remind you about Trump's water obsession. You need to know the full story to appreciate this. Trump's been obsessed for years with the fact that California was diverting water from some farmland in the Central Valley to maintain a delta. And one of the many reasons they were trying to preserve the water flow in that delta was because of an endangered fish in the delta smelt. But this was mainly, if we're being honest, a story about environmental regulations versus a bunch of farmers. Because the water was farmers' water from the Central Valley, okay? So it's a question of, is the water going to the farmers in the Central Valley or is it going to the Delta? Cut to the LA fires years later. And Trump insists that the reason they had no water was because of that fish. He said that so many times. Totally not true. LA had no water because their water system couldn't deal with the demand during the fire. The water in the Central Valley doesn't go to LA. It stays in the valley. That's how valleys work. And, it goes to local farmland in the valley. But Trump insisted if they would only turn on the faucet, and yes, he used that term, turn on the faucet in the Central Valley, it would stop the fires. He said that over and over again. And it became weirder because then he claimed to have done it. He claimed the army somehow broke in and turned on the faucet, and that fixed everything. And he demanded California thank him for this action. In reality, what happened? It was an army engineer requested that the water in a Central Californian reservoir was released. But it was just released into the local farmland because that's where that water gets released. This is water that they didn't need because it was the middle of winter and it was raining. They didn't need any more water. But that water is supposed to be stored for the summer. And they were releasing the water that was going to be used in the next drought. And so the farmers were getting quite pissed off, going, why are you destroying our next crop by releasing all this water? And so the army then just said, oh, yeah, we will stop that. And after 4 days and 2 billion wasted gallons, they turned the flow of water off. Now none of that water went anywhere other than the Central Valley. None of it went to LA. So that is what happened, okay? So that's the reality. Now you understand the background. But Trump tweeted out this picture the next day, which he says is of California. Other people say is of Vermont. We're not sure. It's either in California or in Vermont. I don't really care. He says, photo of beautiful water flow that I just opened in California. Today, 1.6 billion gallons, and in 3 days, it'll be 5.2 billion gallons. Everyone should be happy about this long-fought victory. I only wish they listened to me 6 years ago. There would have been no fire. No, there would have been a fire. That tweet is weird and embarrassing, but a month later, he's still at it. There's your background. So, I'm now warning you, I'm going to play you Trump's whole answer, even though it goes for 4.5 minutes. If you don't want to hear someone sundowning, I advise you skip forward 4.5 minutes. But if you enjoy that kind of thing, well, sit back, get yourself a can of Fanta, let's go. He's asked whether he'll be negotiating with the Democrats over a shutdown. That's the starting point. Will you negotiate with the Democrats over a shutdown? Good luck, Peppers.
We're looking at an impending government shutdown Friday midnight.
Yeah.
Democrats for 30 years straight have said if there's a shutdown, bad things happen. Do you anticipate direct negotiations yourself with conference leader of the Democrats, Chuck Schumer?
If they need me, I'm there 100%. It's right now it's 2 or 3 people. If it shuts down, it's not the Republicans' fault. You know, we passed a bill where we had an incredible Republican vote. We only had 1 negative vote, a grandstander, you know, 1 grandstander. There's always a grandstander in the lot. But it was amazing. People were amazed that the Republicans were able to vote in unison like that, so strongly. If there's a shutdown, even the Democrats admit it'll be their fault. And I'm hearing a lot of Democrats are going to vote for it, and I hope they do. This is an extension. But ultimately, we want to vote for one big, beautiful bill where we put the taxes in, we put everything in. We're going to have big tax cuts. We're going to have tremendous incentives for companies coming into our country and employing lots of people. It'll be, I called it, in a rare moment, one big, beautiful bill. That's what I like, and it seems to be that's where they're heading. And we'll have to take care of something to do with Los Angeles. A place called Los Angeles almost burned to the ground. By the way, I broke into Los Angeles. Can you believe it? I had a break-in. I invaded Los Angeles, and we opened up the water, and the water is now flowing down. They have so much water, they don't know what to do. They were sending it out to the Pacific for environmental reasons. Okay, can you believe it? And in the meantime, they lost 25,000 houses. They lost, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. But we have the water. I'd love to show you a picture. You've seen the picture. The water is flowing through the half pipes. You know, we have the big half pipes that go down. 25 years ago, they used to have plenty of water, but they turned it off for environmental reasons. Well, I turned it on for environmental reasons and also fire reasons. But and I've been asking them to do that during my first term. I said, do it. I didn't think anything like could happen like this, but they didn't have enough water. Now the farmers are going to have water for their land, and the water is in there. But I actually had to break in. We broke in to do it because we had people that were afraid to give water. They were, in particular, they were trying to protect a certain little fish. And I say, how do you protect the fish if you don't have water? They didn't have any water, so they're protecting a fish. And that didn't work out too well, by the way. So they have a lot of water going down throughout California, all coming out from the Pacific Northwest, even some from Canada. Thank you, Canada, very much. I appreciate it. Next thing you know, they'll want to turn the water off. They want to charge us for the water. But it comes up from the Pacific Northwest, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I mean, it is brimming with water. Now, if they would have had that done, you wouldn't have had the damage because the fire would have been put out. The fire hydrants would have been loaded. The sprinklers in people's living rooms and bedrooms would have been loaded up with water. They had no water. The government makes them put sprinklers, and they had no water in the sprinklers because they had no water. So the water is flowing, and we're going to have to give a lot of money to Los Angeles to help them. And the Democrats are going to want to do that. So that's the one thing different. And frankly, I think that makes it a lot easier. But one of the big thing is we have the big, beautiful bill. We got to get that done. And that will put our country in a position like it's never been. It's a reduction of taxes. It's tremendous incentives for companies to come from all over the world into our country. It's great environmentally. But it's not this environmental scam that we went through, that we all went through. It provides for everything. It's a big, beautiful bill, and I hope we can get it approved, and that'll be next. But in the meantime, we have the continuing resolution, and the Republicans have approved it, and now the Democrats have to approve it, and I hope they will. And I think a lot of them, I can tell you, they want to. I've spoken to some of them. They really want to. Their leadership may not want them to. And if it closes, it's purely on the Democrats.
Wow. The incredible distance between that and reality. The sheer confusion. The amazing irrelevance of that completely wrong anecdote to the question that was asked. It is tough. That, in my view, is Mad King stuff. What do you reckon, Melina?
Can't disagree. I do think it's so much harder. We talked about this, peek behind the curtain privately the other day, but it's harder to judge decline with Trump because he's so on TV all the time. And when you're seeing someone he's very old, so it makes sense. Like, everyone declines at that age. So there would be, and if you look at clips from him of 4 or 8 years ago, it's quite different. But when you're seeing someone all the time and they're just progressively declining, it's less obvious because he's always said crazy shit. He's always rambled and gone on weird tangents and stuff. He says it's like some special sophisticated speaking style when he's pressed on it.
The weave, he called it.
Yeah. Whereas in contrast with Biden, they tried to hide him away because he wasn't looking great, but it meant that when he did do that terrible debate performance, it was all the more shocking because we hadn't seen that much of him. So when you see him, when you see anybody who's getting old, when there's been a long gap, you usually get a shock by how much they've aged. Whereas if you see them every day, you don't really notice because it is gradual, both physically and mentally. And so in that sense, Trump does himself a favor by talking shit on TV every day, and Biden and his people did himself quite a disservice by hiding away.
I completely agree. Completely agree. I mean, I was making that point at the time. So they should have listened to me. I don't have anything to add to. Oh, yeah, I will say this. You might want to bookmark that. You might want to bookmark this podcast. The next time someone asks you for proof that Trump might not be all there, Yeah, you play them that. But first explain the water thing to them. You need to understand the water thing because otherwise you just go, oh, he's just talking some shit, whatever.